reality is sobering. For many people, living in Portland is nearly impossible. It's just too expensive. But on the Oregon ballot this November is something many advocates say will help a lot of people.
The Affordable Housing Bond in Portland, Oregon was developed in collaboration between Metro, a branch of government, and community organizations. They spent a lot of time making sure that equity was baked into the process of developing the policy. Despite this deep partnership with organizations on the ground, when the policy was converted into a ballot initiative and set to go to the ballot, they hired a firm that was all white and that was focused on reaching middle-class white voter base.
The truth is, you can work full-time and still not be able to put a roof over your family's head.
When the campaign came to our offices out of Pono and showed us the messaging, we immediately felt that it was such a deal breaker. They used a nostalgia frame that would talk about whitewash terms like livability and back to the old times in Portland.
Hi, I'm Bill Walton. In another time's forgotten space, I used to play for the Portland Trailblazers, and Rip City was an affordable place to live and raise your family.
We didn't want to tie our campaign and affordable housing to this era that simply didn't exist for BIPOC communities, right? At times when we never had access to affordable housing. Our government was actively redlining communities, forcing them out, gentrifying them, evicting them.
So ultimately, the bond measure that moves forward in Portland, Oregon, does pass.
I'm excited to tell you that we have passed both Measure 1 and 2.
But we don't see much interest or, frankly, active support in the field on this issue, in large part because of lack of alignment between the campaign and communities who would be most impacted by affordable housing.
A measure on the ballot in Oakland this week aims to make it much harder for certain landlords to evict their tenants without just cause.
I identified kind of immediately that everybody was receiving a 60-day notice claiming that the owner was going to move in. Well, that's exceptional. I worked in Los Angeles for about a decade, and in that entire time, I represented 8 tenants in owner moving cases.
And I understand that everybody needs to make some sort of profit, but at what cost?
Tarima Pettis is one of them.
I'm a professional woman sitting here making a decent living. I honestly don't have a plan as I sit here today.
That's scary.
That's very scary.
One of the other patterns we started seeing is that triplexes and duplexes were really under siege, and particularly in District 3, which was one of our historically black neighborhoods, but right adjacent to downtown. We actually had to go through council to do it. We had drafted an ordinance. We went to the council members and said, do you want to work with us on this? And we had some really strong leaders. They really helped us get this on the ballot.
This ballot measure was important for the ways in which it was able to support people staying in their homes, particularly lower income, working class folks, folks of color.
While both of these measures ultimately passed, they didn't do much to leave deeper, stronger bonds. We see, however, that race plays a huge role in both of these places, and who participates, in how it's talked about, and how much traction it gets with voters of color specifically.
3 years later, when we're in 2021 and looking back at 2018 in that monumental election, we see what BIPOC communities were bringing to the table is working and has helped transform the messages and the politics in the area. And affordable housing, the problem's only worse after the pandemic, and so we need bigger, bolder, and consistent messages to combat this crisis.